Gabriela Ramos is the Assistant Director General for Social and Human Sciences of UNESCO, where she oversees the contribution of UNESCO to build inclusive and peaceful societies. Please help me in welcoming to the stage Gabriela Ramos.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much to the French for inviting me. And it seems that you are in a non-stop series of conversations, so I hope that we will get to somewhere in terms of understanding better where we are and where we want to be regarding the governance of artificial intelligence. I'm Gabriela Ramos. I'm the Assistant Director General of Social and Human Science at UNESCO. And maybe you don't know, because UNESCO is well known for our cultural work, the World Heritage Sites, for education, but UNESCO is also the place where we talk about science, human and social sciences, and we also have this mandate to look at emerging technologies through the lenses of ethics. And ethics can be a very blurry concept, because ethical reflections is just what is good or bad, what are the moral grounds in which we take our decisions. But at UNESCO, we have decided that ethics needs to translate into the full respect of human rights and human dignity, ensuring that technologies deliver fair outcomes, inclusive outcomes, and sustainable outcomes. So that's the framing. And we have used that kind of framing with the human genome. We have used it for neurotechnologies. We have used it for the ethics of AI. And therefore, yesterday that I was in the UK summit with all the academics and the ministers and listening to the way the conversation is changing and adopting this more ethical ground is good news for us. And it's good news for many years we have been hearing, you don't know how to do it. We know the technologies are very fast. The genie is out of the box. We don't understand how the algorithms work. My God, even the developers don't even know why the things or the outputs that the systems deliver are the way they are. But at the end, there should be accountability. There should be responsibility. There should be transparency. And this is the basis of our democratic systems. And technological development cannot be at the cost of these very important principles. And we know what are the principles, but then to translate it into something that is really on-the-ground decision-making is not as simple, but is more difficult when the narrative is saying you cannot do it. And what is happening today in the UK, and after the Biden administration decided to go for their executive order, is that we now think that we can do it, that we know how to do it. It's not that the governments are going to be describing every single step of how the technologies are working, or they need to know which algorithms they can use to counter other algorithms. But at the end, the duty is to uphold the rule of law. And I think this is the core of the issue of what the UNESCO has been doing with the ethics of artificial intelligence. In 2021, we got 193 countries to adopt the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence. And then we got the US to rejoin UNESCO for many of the reasons I want to believe, but also for the work that we're doing in this ground. And what happened is that when you get 190 countries to agree how to deal with the technologies, respecting human rights, human dignity, fairness, sustainability, looking at accountability, but more than anything, looking at policies and how policies can shape the direction of the technologies, you can deliver better for people. Because that's what we all want, for these technologies to help us build more inclusive societies, help us to achieve the climate transition, help us to narrow the gender gaps, and not to widen them. And therefore, this is exactly what happened in 2021, when we got these 193 countries to agree. And let me just share with you some of the elements there, because as I said, what we're hearing here in the UK with the executive order in the US, China adopting also their own decalogues, the Hiroshima process in the G7, we are coalescing towards a common narrative to shape the development of these technologies in a more sustainable and inclusive manner. One element that I think is crucial for this is the ex-ante evaluation of the systems before they can be deployed to the market. this is just like good governance. You will never want to have any new product in the market that has not passed some test, some kind of test of safety or security, sustainability, or, but this was not what happened with generative AI, I have to say. We were learning by doing and trying to understand what were the downsides when it was already reaching millions of users. And then we got to know that there were hallucinations, and we got to know that the same old friends in terms of biases, outcomes, or stereotyped responses, or the delivery of massive misinformation, because now it's exponential, was there before we really tested the systems. So I feel this was the first and very important message that we deliver in the UNESCO recommendation, that we needed to have this ex-ante evaluation. Of course, you cannot control everything, but at the end, this rule is changing the mindset of developers and is changing the mindset of governments in the sense of what needs to be there in the markets to deliver for good. The other point, and this is probably you have heard a lot about human determination, no? There's always needs to be a human in charge and the one that takes a decision. And again, it's not as simple as that, because we know that the black box exists, and we know that generative AI just browses around and makes its own connections. But at the end, one single element that the recommendation has, and that I feel is super important that we push for it to be enacted in all of the member governments that sign, is that we should not grant legal personality to AI developments. As simple as that. Don't grant them. Because at the end, if you are the one that need to be controlling the outcomes, why would you do that? And so these are kind of specific aspects of the no-go places or elements of policy decisions that can be taken to ensure that the AI technologies deliver for good. Another angle that was also important is the question of sustainability, because it seems that technologies are there and it's fantastic, no? They just go and consume all these data and come out with responses, and at the end they are just amazing, because the kind of service that they can provide are just mind-boggling, and we saw it, no? The COVID vaccine took 1 year to be delivered instead of 8. Of course, there were a lot of shortcuts, but at the end it was AI that could tell us how the virus moved and try to understand the patterns and the movements and behaviors, and it was just great. But at the end, the whole point here is how do we ensure that the decisions that are being taken there are fair and sustainable. You have this recent example with the Babylon healthcare platform. I don't know, maybe you are not aware of it, but there was this promise of having a very efficient management of health consultations, and it didn't work. In the Netherlands, you know that there was this algorithm that was designed to try to allocate better welfare, distribution of welfare benefits, and it discriminated against migrants. So let alone the question of existential risks. Right now, millions of decisions are being taken with the support of artificial intelligence. In the government, in the private sector, in the universities, in the banks, in the health systems. And therefore, it's only fair to question what is the basis for that decision, what was the framework in which you inform the result, and how we can ensure that it is fair and that it's sustainable. So I feel all of these elements were there, and the question here, it's a change of tone, because at the end is bringing back the responsibility and the tools and the leadership to the governments. Every time I heard about voluntary commitments, the companies agreed to voluntary commitments. Well, that's great, but that's not the way we rule our democracies. We need to be bound by the rule of law. And everybody in our democratic system needs to be bound by the rule of law, needs to be constrained with binding laws to ensure that the whole developments, I'm seeing you, that the whole developments deliver for people. And this is very important, because this is, I'm a policy person. I have been always dealing with policies, how you design them, how you measure the impact of these policies, how you ensure that they achieve the objectives is not as simple as it should, as one might think. But at the end, policies matter. And the message that I want to leave with you is that governments can help us shape the direction. It has to be done multi-stakeholder. It needs to be fed by the thinking of academic institutions, of the researchers, of the experts. It needs to be in collaboration with the private sector, but the duty of care is of the governments. And it's not only about regulations. It's not only about what kind of constraints or standards. It's about incentives. It's about public procurement. 12% of the budgets of governments in the most advanced economies are for public procurements. Just putting a rule of having ethical AI to just participate in any government bidding will make a long way. You have subsidies, so you have many tools to shape the incentives of the markets for them to deliver for good. And I feel this is a very important conversation, but this is not a technological debate. It's a societal one. It's about the policies. It's about the societies we want to build. And it's about the tools and the rules that we have to make that happen. And I feel that I will not give you all the examples of things that can go wrong. We know about the gender gaps that are more acute in the digital world than in many other areas of the economy. We know about the fact that half of the world is not connected to internet. What are we talking about? We know that 80% of these technologies are being developed by two countries, the US and China. And therefore, we know that concentration in the business model derives these outcomes that are also exclusionary in the downstream. But what happened today, for us, is good news. What is happening in the changing of the conversation is that we come to realize that we can shape the direction, or we can shape the market in the digital transformation. We can do it, and we can deliver for good for our people. We will be working on that. UNESCO is working now with 40 countries to look at institutions, at regulations, at capacities, at skills. Cultural norms matter. Societal preference matters. Risk aversion matters. Some countries are very risk averse, some others are not. Members decide how they want to deal with it. But we cannot evade our responsibility to make sure that this technological transition delivers for good, and that we do the best we can for making this happen. So thank you so much. I just invite you to watch this space, because UNESCO is going to be working on this. We will have a forum in February in Slovenia. We're working with the European Union to think about institutions. We're working with Latin America, with Africa, and it's exciting. It's exciting, but it's good that we are not focusing on the how and not on the what. So thank you so much, and looking forward to the discussions that are going to follow. Thank you.